As I do a little bit of housekeeping here. Okay. All right. Welcome to Paints and Glitter. This is Raquel, and I'm just going to zoom in here for a moment. I know that you guys would rather see my work surface than anything else. I welcome you to my channel if you're new here. I'm going to try to position my camera so that you can see my work surface and the items that I'm using here. This is part 2 in a series of tutorials that I'll be sharing. Good morning, Ines, and welcome. I'm doing some page assembly here for the mini album that I said I would share using TonicStudios dies and the adorable collection called the Picking Garden from Shabby Art Boutique. In the last video, I came along and I shared how I did the base construction of this book, which included the back page, or back cover, I'm sorry, spine, and the front cover, as well as the very first page in the book, which you can see here. That meant that I shared how you could construct this little tuck-in piece here on the side. I also started the base assembly for this piece here, which I finished off camera. And I also assembled this page and shared how to make just this little fold out page here, as well as this little flip that goes up like that. This is all using TonicStudios dies, and as I said before, the Picking Garden paper collection from Shabby Art Boutique. I have already listed, thank you so much, I've listed the links in the description bar of this video already, so that if you have, if you're rewatching this video, you can just go right to those links, and I'll let you know ahead of time. This digital paper collection is something you would have to print at home or save to a USB stick and take it to a store that will print for you, such as UPS or any kind of office store. You can bring your own papers if you want to. And what I wanted to say about that is that it is by subscription only. So if you miss the subscription deadline, I can't guarantee that you can get your hands on this paper line. However, having said that, I've already discovered that yes, she does have an Etsy store, so you can get plenty of printables from her without a subscription, even though the price is phenomenal, because I was referring to Australian dollars in my previous video. My mistake. It's $8.95 Australian dollars, or Australian currency, I should say, but it is only $6.95 US dollars for the monthly subscription. Comes with tons and tons and tons of printables. I mean, you can make very different types of books with it, which is what I was thinking, or cards, all the way from very romantic to wedding to baby, whimsical, anything in between. So long as you like the shabby look, of course, because that's what this is pretty much the theme, I would say, along with most of what she makes. So everything that you see here is from her collection, with the exception of any white bases or solid pink, solid blue, things like that. The other page that I did on the last live was this one here. And what I showed was how you could use the TonicStudios die to make a different type of mini album. And I'm just going to hit on that very quickly. It was the Life You Love Keepsake Insert Creator die set. This one here will make a mini album, and I've shared several of them on this channel. You can look at those videos. But for the sake of showing how you could use that same mini album base differently, then I shared how to construct this page here, which is very simple. I didn't go ahead and I mentioned I was going to put the little pull tabs there. So I did do that. I added from the ephemera of the paper collection the little birdhouse, the fence, and this rose here, as well as the butterflies. And then off camera, I went ahead and I had already made a little flower I added that. I added all the little diamond dots to give texture, as I like to do. The little pull tab that I mentioned. And then on the inside, on that live video, I did construct the base of all of this and added those little tags. What I hadn't done was place this little frame here. That's from that same die collection. You can make this little frame, and with the same group of dies that will match this, you can make this piece here, which I've included, just to show a different way to use the dies, because the whole idea behind this video is to show you ways you can stretch the dies you already have, use something similar. So in this case, I used the sentiment. It says, create the life you love. I did create a frame here, and all I did was copy the same elements of this page, which is this folding base here. The same way that I constructed it here, I did it over here. It's just mirroring each other. So if you see this page and you flip it upside down, that's exactly what I did there, okay? Because obviously I did this off camera. And I used the paper collection to add the little image here of the little bird with another birdhouse here. And then these little flowers were cut using Sizzix dies, I believe. If you could bear with me, I think, no, I'm sorry. Those were Crafter's Companion flowers. And I used this set here, and it is older. Thank you so much, Ines. Yes, I also like doing that. I purposely try to buy dies that I can use in as many ways possible, because let's face it, you know, it is an investment. So I try to make sure that I get the most out of it that I can. So that's where those little flowers came in, and then there's a little sprig behind that. It's barely visible, and I used a Sizzix die for that, I believe. Let me see if I can find it. I tend to, oh, here it is. So this is another Sizzix die. This is called, what is this called? I don't know if there's a name to it, but it's 665079. This is another die set that I've shown before on this channel. It goes a long way because all of these elements are separate. So you can use the tag, you can use the flowers, you can use a little wire, the jar, all of these things separately. See how they come here? So this is something that would persuade me to buy a die set, is if I know that, for instance, the little hearts I can use on their own, the flowers, the jar, the label, the sprigs, and even the sentiments, then of course, you know, you can stretch those as you like. So that's where that little sprig came from. And then, of course, I put the little handle, if you will, down here. So that opens this way, and then there's that matching element, which is the frame. So that's what makes this page layout cohesive. On this side, yes, I did a little tuck spot just for fun, just to show that you could use the spine of that die set. But over here, I omitted that. So you don't have to copy it verbatim, if you will. But you do get a nice idea there of things that you can do with the dies. Now, just like any canvas, if you will, nothing is done completely until I give it away, of course. So in this case, it doesn't mean that I'm done with this layout. This is just a sampling of what you can do. And by the way, back here, just to show you, there's another little tuck spot. So I didn't adhere that page all the way down, so that if the recipient wants to place something back here, they can do that. I can definitely add another little die cut, even this one here. It doesn't compete with the layout, so I might add that there just so that they know that if they want to add a little journaling, then they can use that as a little tuck spot on that page. And it does differ from this one because I did glue all of these elements down. So as I mentioned in my previous video, I let the papers sort of dictate the layout, because you have to take into account how lightweight the papers are, how many layers you want to incorporate. And the other thing is, and this is something I forgot to mention before, bear in mind there will be pictures here. Now behind these papers there are magnets. If a person places a picture here, I want them to be able to do so and still have that magnet work. So one way you can test it is put a few pieces of paper there, see if the magnet is still working. If it does, then you're kind of in a safe zone, if you will. If it doesn't, then that means you didn't put enough magnets on your page. You may want to double them up and place them strategically in a diagonal shape or something like that so that it doesn't ruin the picture you may place on that page. I also will be copying the same frame here. I'll be cutting an extra one and adding it at the end of the book so that she has frames that she can cut out herself by using those as a template. So now moving on to the next page here, I have to flip it upside down to you, but I have my next page. Now all of these are the base pages. I've cut them all down with this particular die, and this is from the, bear with me. The names always escape me. Okay. I don't know where I put my die set, but it's around here somewhere. And you would think that it would be right in front of me, but I tend to put things away once I use them. Well, I might have to come back to that just because I don't want to get too sidetracked, but just to let you know, in case anyone has that curiosity later on, these base pages are 7 1/4 by 5 1/4 inches wide for the covers, okay? The covers are 7 1/4 by 5 1/4. The interior pages I did cut down, as I mentioned in the previous video. I cut them down, let's see here. Or maybe they're bigger. No, okay. Sorry, I take that back. I think the covers are 5 1/2. No, see, these are metric measurements, and I can tell because it's by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 16ths. Okay, is the actual width. So I took away 2 16ths on the interior pages so that they would fit. In other words, I took away 1/8 of an inch in the width just to keep it simple. Some people are into numbers and some are not, and I don't want to make it confusing, but just make your pages 1/8 of an inch narrower and they will fit the inside of your book once it's closed. Okay, because you have to make sure that they're not then poking out. If you cut your inside pages the same exact size as the covers, you're going to have that what we call, you know, that hanging over, because of the fact that you didn't factor in the thickness of your spine. So those are just little tips I like to give so that if you end up being a newcomer to mini album making, that you don't walk away frustrated if you cut all these gorgeous papers and then your book didn't work out. So okay, so let's work on this page. I have already planned it out a bit, to the best of my ability anyway. So I was thinking here of using some adorable little pieces that I had cut out, and here's where I wanted to take this. I want to cut this page in half, right down the middle here, vertically, okay? And thank you, Ines, but let me know if, if I make things more confusing, because I don't mean to. I'm not quite sure if I'm always describing things the best way possible, but I try. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this at 2.5 inches. Let me see here. Let me measure it first. Measure twice, cut once, right? Let me make sure that this is 5 1 2 3/8, I said. So, okay. It's kind of hard to tell with this paper cutter, but if I measure that, that's 4 1/4. So 2 1/16 if I put that there. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna cut this down in half. You can figure out what half is, whatever works for you. All right, so this might look a little crazy, but it'll make sense as I start constructing this. Oh, okay, wonderful. Yeah, I didn't announce this video because I'm I'm not too good at that. I'm just gonna confess. I'm not too good at announcing the videos, but in any case, what I'm making here is a side pocket. That's it. Now, because of the type of paper that I used here, the weight of it is nice and heavy, so I don't have to be too worried about it. Now, if I want to, I can add an edge here to make this prettier, and then I'm going to start making all of my little tuck-ins and all of that good stuff. What I can do is I can add a piece of lace just to make it pretty, you know, give it a cute finish there without adding too much bulk, because this happens to be very lightweight. Okay, and again, this is just to give myself a border there. All right, kind of to denote the edge of the page. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a little tiny bit of hot glue, just a drop of it. And I like to get it started on the edge of my glass mat here, just because my hot glue tends to be on for a little bit too long and the glue gets yucky, even though I don't intend for anyone to see it, but I'm just going to get this started here. I'm going to cut away what I don't need. And for this video, of course, I'm going to try to limit this to 1.5 hours at the most, as I did before, even though I went a little bit over, and that's for health reasons. I have to take a break and then go stretch out my back. So if it seems kind of sudden, I apologize in advance. All right, so to make this a pocket, inevitably I have to adhere it to the base page, of course, and then 2 other sides. So I'm going to place my score tape here. This is where my hinge is. And if you need to know how to make that, or the base, or all of that, I do have tutorials on all of that. I'm going to take the adhesive backing off of here. And I'm also going to actually use a little bit of this score tape just because of that lace. I'm going to supplement with this on the edges up here. And let me set this aside a moment. Okay, like that. All right, so we can take the backing off of these. Now, if that ribbon was terribly bulky, I would tell you, make sure that you cut away as much as you can. You know, like I see here, I don't need it to be very long in there. But you have to determine that depending on the type of ribbon that you're using, or trim. Okay. Now I'm going to use my liquid adhesive to make sure that I get this stuck really nicely. And I'll do it on this adhesive as well. And I explained that's got a lot to do with the type of, you know, humidity you might encounter in your room and all that good stuff. All right, I'm going to place this down, and this is going to be my little side pocket. So I'm just going to press on that gently, making sure not to warp my paper. Okay. And I'm going to just add a tiny little drop of glue here, just to make sure that that lace doesn't move. And I'm doing it strategically right behind the little flowers there, just so that this doesn't create problems with the papers not being able to stick on there nicely. Now, what I had thought to do here is that I want to create a little base here also, a decorative base. So for this, I have this adorable piece that I had printed and cut out. So you can tell I did fussy cut around all that image. And this is going to go down here. And what I want to do is make sure that I adhere as much of this as possible so that it doesn't start falling apart on me. But I do want to give it a bit of support. So I'm going to grab another piece of paper. And this is a 110-pound cardstock. So I'm going to cut it so that it's a little bit smaller. And this again is just for support. You can just eyeball it however you need to. Go like this. Okay. And then I'm going to cut it here, like so. And give myself enough glue here to adhere this. Just like that. And now this is going to be a little bit sturdier. And I'm just going to add a tiny bit of adhesive down here and on this little corner up top. I'm going to bring this all the way down. And it just so happens that this fits perfectly at the bottom, so I'm really happy with that. So it just has a little bit of hot glue there. Now the reason I did that is because I have these other pieces that I printed out. This blue white polka dot with a blue background is part of the paper collection. So is this little image here. It's meant to be part of a little notebook piece, just like this one. So I wanted to layer that and be able to place it back here as a little frame. I want to make sure that it's going to fit. Okay, so it's not going to go all the way to the edge here, but that's okay. And then I have this other piece that I'm going to use as a tuck-in, but let me do this first, just because it's a simpler piece. And again, it's a 110-pound cardstock and 2 of the pretty papers that I cut out. So I'll do these really quickly. And of course, I've tried to incorporate different shapes on purpose because in my mind, I just think it adds more interest rather than leaving it all rectangular, even though if you did that, it would still look just as pretty. Trying to make sure I have keep the cobwebs at bay with the hot glue. So there's that. Simple little mat there, but super pretty. Now to this, of course, you can add little gems all around the perimeter. You can add a bow, anything like that. Hi, Wandy. Hey, sweetie. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm completing this album, as I mentioned before, that I would come back and show more of the pages. So far, what I did was cut this page in half. I placed that as a base, and that gives me a side pocket. You can see it right here, okay? So if you see that, I've got my little side pocket that I created. And now I'm going to create another element to tuck in there, and I have this piece left over that I can then add to my following page, okay? And it creates a bit of a cohesive look there without having to work too hard, if you will. So this is going to be another tuck-in. All I did is use from that same die set collection, which looks like this. And I had spoken before about how much I like these dies. It's because they're so easy to incorporate into things. Now, here are the other two. This makes, let me show. Now, I put these on magnets like 2 years ago. This is called the Memory Bookmaker. So this is what I have left over of those papers. There is the base creator, which is this one. It has the 10 dies. Now, obviously, it has the ones that don't cut on one edge, has the other ones that have just that little stippled edge. And then this was the bigger set that you could use. With those dies, I went ahead and used one. All I did was fold the paper in half, put the die on top and run it through my die cutting machine. And it gave me this. Now the paper already comes with this that you can print out. So it looks like a little notebook. And oh, you're gonna love it, Wanda. You're gonna have so much fun with it. So now that I've folded that, right, folded my paper, I cut it out. I then cut another piece that will layer on top, but you can tell that this piece is too big there on that edge. So now all I have to do is cut that off. So I'm gonna just take my pencil and mark it. So cut away what I don't need. Or you can do it I mean, it depends on your comfort level in cutting paper, of course. You can do it after, whatever. I just like to take a little pencil and kind of mark it there and cut away. So let me do that. And I like to make it a tiny bit smaller there. Okay, so that's all that I have left over there. Some people might save that, others will just toss it. Depends on what you like. And then on top of that, I did use 3 different dies to make this one. Now this is another layering element, okay? The largest die cuts out the outer border. The inner die cuts out that beautiful design there that looks almost like lace, if you will. And then the third die I used in the center and cut away this piece here, okay? So I just cut that away. Now I have this piece. I'm just gonna cut it down so that it's smaller because I don't need that little edge there. And again, this normally would have made a page hinge, and that's why it has that little tab on the edge, but I'm not making I'm not making a page with it, so I can just take that off. Se me lengua la traba, as we say in Puerto Rico. Se me lengua la traba. Oh my gosh. Getting tongue twisted. Okay, so here I can do this, and this is where this would come in, just as a little design element there. Keep it interesting. You can also, you know, of course, do it this way if you want. It really depends on what you like. I'm going to go ahead and just keep it simple. Bring this all the way over here to the edge. And then she can either put a picture here or whatever she's comfortable with, but I'm going to start gluing this down. And this is another place where you can add lace if you want to. In fact, now that I say that, I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Because what's the point of having it if I don't use it? So I'm just going to add a tiny bit of hot glue here. And again, it's soft texture without a whole lot of bulk, but in the end, it'll be cohesive, it'll look cute. Add another piece here. Boricua. It's so funny. I don't hear that enough. Boricua. Boricua sister. And ironically, when I go to Puerto Rico, I'm not called Boricua. I'm more likely to be called Gringa. Irony of ironies, you know? But it's so funny. I was remembering this morning a couple of different things. I was telling my son about it. You know how you start reminiscing and remembering stories of your childhood and stuff like that? I was an army brat growing up, so we moved to Puerto Rico after a long absence, and the town where I ended up living was in the country, en el campo, as we say. And I didn't understand anything that people were saying to me. I was so confused. Oh my gosh. because they would ask me, "¿Tú eres de Nueva York?" Are you from New York? And I had never been, at that point, I had never been to New York. Gosh. And I would say, why does everyone think I'm from New York? I've never been to New York. But it was that mentality of like, oh, you're from the US. My mother had explained that to me. Of course, me being the silly goof that I was like, Mom! I earned that nickname for a good reason. Mom! Why do they think I'm from New York? I can hear that in my head now. It's like, ugh. Now I get it. Oh my gosh. And lo and behold, now I've lived in New York for, I don't know, oh gosh, 20 plus years. Going on, yeah, gosh, more than that. That glue gun, hi Angela, another Boricua. This glue gun, to be completely honest, it's cute. You know? Like if you have to say something good or not say anything at all, it's a cute color. That's about it, Wendy. That's where it's gonna end. It's a cute color. No, the other one, oh gosh, girl, I could tell you some stories when it comes to glue guns. Oh, Lord have mercy. The one that's the same brand, Sure Bonder, you know, they make the black one with green. That one's way better, if I have to compare it. I got that one because it matched my room. And I'm gonna remind myself, yeah, I have to remind myself not to shop just because things look pretty. As hard as that is. So here's my little tuck-in piece. Okay, it's gonna go right on that same page. Now I can place it behind here, like so, and that way it fits all the way to the edge of that page, like that. All right. It has two elements there where she can either add pictures or do her journaling in here and add the picture on the back of this piece or on the front, wherever she'd like. She could add another picture here. And that can complete this page. Okay? Or this one can tuck in front, like so. Just for another little element there of, you know, of having layers, if you like the more layered look. Now this is just free floating here, but you guys who weren't here in the beginning will know that, or I'm sorry, I'll let you know that what I did was I put 110-pound cardstock behind this so that it's a bit more sturdy, because it's quite delicate up here, but down here it's basically another tab there, if you will. Okay, so now let's move into the next side here. I'm going to use this page here to, let's see here. This is going to start, all right, my base. All right, so I'm going to cut that down. And by cutting it down, I just mean making this so that my pages aren't poking out, as I had mentioned before. Okay, so I'm just cutting off that one little edge there a little bit. All right, and if I was going to use it on this side, I would just place it here and adhere it. But because I'm continuing the other part of this layout, I'm going to just start it over here. Okay, and I hope that's not confusing, but I'm gonna, you know, sometimes I work backwards because that's what works best for the layout that I'm making. This, because of the time that I invest on my books, Wandy, this size book I have sold in the past for $75. And that's because of material and because of my time. And if you want to see a sample of a book this size on my page, you can look back. I made a Maggie Holmes themed one, and it was this same size. And yeah, I think it was around $75. So, because you have to take into account how much time are you investing, you know. And as I say, you know, your experience is worth money, okay? Don't undersell your crafts ever, because it brings down, you know, it brings down the appreciation of the hard work that you put into what you're making, okay? And as we say, oh, thank you, sweetie. Like there's a, I don't know if you know who Clau, she's, I believe she's from Peru, but she lives in Spain. She designs mini albums and things like that, and you know, she did a little, she's kind of, you know, she's a funny girl. She makes funny videos on Instagram and whatever. But she made a really good point in one of the little videos that she put out, where she said, basically, no quieres pagar, que no quieres pagar, que $125 es mucho para un libro, hazlo tú. You know, that's the way she put it, and I thought, hey, I'm in agreement 100%. If you pay for anything custom made, you know the price goes up. So that's my argument on that. Oh, don't worry, Wendy. You know what? If you make something and people want it, they'll pay it. I've never had an issue with it. You know, now I don't do it for that, you know, that's not the main reason why I craft. And these days I can't, you know, even if I wanted to, I can't, because I don't have the ability to do it. But let me tell you, if you walk into a store, say Target, you walk into Target and in 3 seconds you sneeze out $100 and you don't think anything of it, and you walk away and you don't even remember what you bought, then, you know, when it comes to handmade items, then yeah, charge accordingly. And that's exactly why, Ines, there's a lot of detail, you know. And of course, you know, if it's for a wedding or something like that, you're going to use your more expensive papers. By the way, these papers here, these are all pearlescent papers, okay? I don't go into my stash and grab the, you know, the cheap stuff to make something that I'm going to, you know, that's a special project. I'm going to use as much as I can of all of the supplies that I have on hand. The ink is not cheap, so you know, you have to factor all of those things in. Cheap followers. Well, you know what? Then, as I said before, you can encourage them to learn to make them themselves. That's all. Sí, vete a la tiendecita y te compras todos los papeles, la tinta, el imprimidor. 20 años aprendiendo a hacer las manualidades. Los dolores de cabeza y todas las veces que me he quemado las puntas de los dedos. Necesito seguro médico para las manos. I think I'm in good company, so I can joke around like that, because I know you guys are going to get it. You know, because you can't say that in every social circle that you're in. So not everybody's going to get it. Pero si no les gusta, mira, más abajito hay gente. No se preocupen. Siempre hay un especial, pero aquí no. Aquí no. All right. Anyway. And if anybody needs translation. Oh, gosh. That's all to say. Just value your work, honey. Value your own work, sweetheart. Porque si no le pagan a otra que lo haga. All right, so here I'm doing the same concept as before, doing that little half page. Oh, yeah. No, don't worry, Wendy. You don't have to. It all depends on what it is, too. You know what I'm saying? But what I would say too is get feedback. You know, get feedback from the people who's your target audience in terms of who you want to sell to. You know, because if you're aiming for the type of customer that's willing to spend that kind of money, then you need to target that kind of customer. And I hope that makes sense. If you're going into any kind of sales situation, you know, in the beginning it's hard, but as I said before, if people want it bad enough, they'll pay that amount, you know. It's just, of course, it makes it hard too when you go into a store and they're bringing in items that look handmade, and they're selling them super cheap. That doesn't help crafters at all. And it's really hard to be in the craft industry, you know, and get your you know, get paid what you're worth in terms of, you know, all the hard work you put into it. It is hard. It can kind of take the joy out of it. So, but those little books, I mean, there's been some little ones that I've sold for, you know, I don't know how much. I'm trying to think. See, because I pulled my stuff out of retail. I was doing stuff for retail, and I can't say, you know what? I can't say that I made a whole lot of money because I still had to pay to have my product there too, you know? So that was another factor. So here, guys, just to show you, you saw how easily I just made that little half page there. So now I can place another element here the same way that I did this one. Okay? Same way I did that. I can go ahead and use this one and fold it here to create a hinge if I want to. So let me go ahead and cut another one. Yes, this is the same one. You said you purchased this die set. Let me answer that real quick. You told me you bought this die set. So this is the page I did live with you guys in the last video. And I was explaining when I first got here that all I did was that I flipped this around and I made a mirror image. Okay, so this is the following page. And all I did was add little frames there. Okay, and if you remember, I had done this tuck spot live with you guys. Okay, so because the page was going to be exactly the same thing except for, you know, flipped upside down, I didn't do this on the video. I just did it, you know, off camera, but just to show you, okay, there's one layout, super easy. It's just a matter of copying what you did before, just flip it upside down. Okay, and then here's the one that I just started today, which is using that page and just cutting it in half, giving yourself 2 side pockets. And then the way you stretch the dies, of course, is that you don't have to use them just straightforward like this. Sorry, I had a little. You can use them and fold your paper before you cut it to give yourself a little layout like that. Okay, and then that creates either a journaling spot or a place here for a picture with journaling on the inside. And it just so happens that I had the same image, okay? So I had printed the smaller one, and that can go coupled with that. It looks really pretty with the colors there. So I think that that's, you know, a cute little tuck in place there, okay? Now, for this page here, I can still, so long as the paper's not too thick, I can still add something here as a decoration, and this will still fit. and I'll change the look of that a tiny bit, but it won't be too bulky, okay? So for this next page here, I want to use the same element, okay? Now, I could use it this way, that way, it doesn't really matter, I don't think. And I have already cut out these two pieces. This one I backed up with, as you can tell, pink gingham cardstock, and then white. And then this one I cut out because it, you know, it coordinates with this. I cut out to showcase kind of the little butterflies there. And then I use that pink gingham that I cut out of the center here. Okay, because I'm showing you how to stretch it. Cut out the middle there and use it on a separate one. And that way you have two little pieces there that you can use. Now, here, another thing that I can do is, and this is what I had thought to do before, was to maybe create like a little belly band and then just tuck these inside. And this can still tuck inside of the page. The only issue is that if you see that, it won't fit all the way in. So sometimes you have the best of intentions and your plan doesn't necessarily, you know, work out the way you thought it would, but we can make it work differently. So let's do that. I'm going to cut this out again. Just have to find out which size that was because I put the dies away, but I'm almost positive. Nope, it's this one. The actual base, this is 7 1/4 by 5 1/4, or 5 1/2. Let me see here. Okay. If you're referring to this one here, that's this one called Memory Bookmaker Layered Cascade. Sorry for the glare there, but this is huge, okay? And I love this collection there because it does make some gorgeous books. And then, of course, for the base of the mini album, it was the Keepsake Bookmaker Base Creator, okay? But let's go back to this. I'm going to find the die that I used for that one, and I'm pretty sure it was this one. Yep. I'm going to cut it out of pink cardstock because I think that's what I was telling myself was going to be kind of the theme here. Okay, sorry I have to walk away now and then, but it's because my things are across the room here. All right, so I'm going to just use this. Okay, I'm going to cut this out. Yes, the nested dies are, you know what, among my favorites because you can do so much with them. And that includes card making too. You can do quite a bit. And in fact, that was the next page layout that I wanted to do, was to show you guys how to use your nested dies to do kind of like a peekaboo page. So let me set this aside for a second. All right, so as you saw, all I did was use this one. Now, just for, just, you know, to describe this to you, this one cuts a very simple beveled edge. And then if you use this to cut into paper, you're going to get that pinking on the opposite paper or the base. So depending on what you're trying to make, if you're trying to make like a window, that could be really cool. Will you bring me water, Diego? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm just going to score this. What were you saying? Please. I'm going to use this. Just asking my son to bring me a drink of water. Okay, I want to make sure that this is going to fit in here. So I'm going to measure twice, cut, or, you know, fold once. I think I want the little flowers at the bottom. Okay. So it's going to be three quarters of an inch there. I'm going to fold that down. I'm going to score the same here, 3/4 of an inch. Diego, today would be nice. Andiamo. Okay, so now I'm cutting this down on that very line that I scored. And I'm going to take my folded edge here and I'm just going to adhere it to create that hinge. Just like that, okay? So it's going to be decorative, but it's essentially just the hinge to my paper there. And I hope that makes sense. But I'm just going to add my little glue here now. Make sure it's nice and straight and fold it over. And of course you can keep adding layers to this. It all depends on what you're trying to do. But say you wanted to do just a junk journal. You can do all of your pages like this and then make your little holes there and string them together. And that would make a really adorable junk journal too. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, my throat was so dry. Okay. So now, let me refresh this just to make sure. Okay. Now this can go in here. Just like so. It fits into my half page that I had created. And I still have these little elements that I can use. I can either adhere it here to the top, just to give myself something pretty there. I think that looks cute. I can use this as a secondary little journaling spot. Just put it in here, you know, add it to the inside of the page, whatever you want to do. In this case, I'm just going to adhere this right to the top here, just like that. And I'm going to look for some other little elements here, because I had cut out quite a few of these. And see what works here. I've got this little girl. Let's see here. I've got quite a few of these. Make sure I have, oh, there's one with the, here she is. Okay, so there's this little girl with the umbrella. That's the one I was just looking for. I think she's so darling. So I can go ahead and put her here now. And that looks absolutely adorable. So I'm going to place her there. And again, this is what I meant about not planning pages too much. It's just kind of go with the flow, see what fits, adjust as, you know, as much as you need to. I'm going to make sure she's nice and straight, guys, because I'm kind of doing this back. Yeah, she was tilting over. Good thing I checked on that. She would have been leaning over like the Tower of Pisa. All right. So there's that. Super cute. Hi, Rocky. Well, thank you for being here. So there's, again, that second little tuck spot. I'm just going to add that in there for now because I think that gives a good idea. Now here, if I don't want to keep this so simple because it's got this adorable little, you know, collage over on this side, I can definitely look at what else I have and give myself another layer here because this is quite simple. I'm going to take a peek here at one die set in particular that I have that I really like. Let me take a look. Because I can add a rather large element there. What collection is that? Which collection do you mean? Oh, the paper collection, Wandy? This is the Picking Garden. And it's available from Shabby Art Boutique, and I have the link in the description bar of this video, or the description box, I'm sorry, of this video. So I'm looking here, there's quite a bit actually that I can add to this, but I'm trying to keep it very delicate looking. Let me see. There's quite a bit here. Let me see. In fact, I can use, let's see. There's one that I have that creates a little house. Could maybe use that. I think that would be kind of cute, and just place it there. So I'm just going to use the little remnants that I have here of all these papers. Why not? Let's see if it'll fit in this tiny little paper cutter that I have. Yes, I did fussy cut all of those because I didn't want to bother with my machines. And I get into a zone when I'm cutting. It helps me deal with my pain that I go through these days, sadly. So yeah, that's what I did. I sat there and I cut and cut and cut papers, but I'm happy with the results. But of course, if you have a scan and cut, that actually works. One of the newer ones. If you have, you know, the, what do you call it? The better machines, you can get yourself some really cute results. So I'm gonna try this piece here. My scissors, here they are. I'm going to use this one as a layer. I like to just see, what do I have sitting around? What can I play with? You know, I think I'm gonna cut this one out and layer it. And because this has little birdhouses, I think this would make a cute faux birdhouse. So why not? This die set happens to be one of the, what are they called? Designer's Choice. I'm sad to say this one's not available any longer. This was from TonicStudios, and you can only get them for the month that they're, you know, made available. But having said that, every now and then, every few months or so, let's just say every quarter or so, maybe 6 months, TonicStudios does open what they call the vault, and they will let you buy dies that were off the market. So don't be surprised if this one shows its head again at some point. I wanted to use, bear with me guys, I wanted to use pink for, no, not pink, what am I saying? Ugh. I'm trying to make use of the papers that I have here. Let me see if this will work. Nope. So I'm just gonna go with white and try to cut this piece out. I need another die cutter. Oh, thank you. Yes, TonicStudios is awesome. I have to say, I'm really happy with all of the dies that I've gotten from them. They work out really well. They have an element of just delicate, pretty, you know, that sort of thing. That's a lot of fun. And I enjoy that. Okay, so now I'm going to cut out the little door and I'll be done with cutting. So I'm just going to use this and I'll be just taking what I need from here. There's also a little fence I wouldn't mind cutting out. And of course these you can also, actually, let me see if I can cut it out. Nope, that's too small. You can color them to match what you're making. I was thinking of this here with the little fence, so I thought, okay, let me mirror that if I can. I think that would be super cute. And I think that's also what makes it a bit more special, is if you have that little touch of something here and there. Okay, let me see if I can wing this one. All right, and then we'll put it together and that'll be the end of this page. Sure thing, Wendy. Thank you so much for having joined us. So once I construct this, then I'll go back and show you guys how I had actually finished off the other pages, okay? Because it's nearing 2 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock I need to be done. All right, but I'm gonna try to work a little bit faster here, God willing. All right. Let's move stuff out of the way. Okay, so here I'm just going to layer these pieces, because again, this is going to be like a faux birdhouse. I'm realizing I'm missing a couple of pieces here, but that's okay. Just going to cut this down. So this is going to be purely decorative now. So I don't need the little hinges, if you will. Okay, and I'm just going to layer this on top. Bye, God bless you. Okay, put this here. All right. Now you can imagine you can add a little bit of lace to this also. Super cute. This one has a bit of detail on it. And it makes it look as if I planned it out too, because of the fact that there's another little house on the opposing page. But I'm just gonna put this here and put my little door on there also. Right in the center. Oopsie. Now I will go back and add the little diamond dots and all of that kind of stuff. Create a bit more of a scene. I will do that. I'm just going to try to straighten this out a tiny little bit. There we go. But if you see what I mean, I can add this here. Now I want to take a look at my page real quick from this perspective. Yeah. Okay. Now this one here has some black to it and all of that. What I can do is ink the edges to give it more depth. So, let me see here. I am going to use gray and not black, just to ink this here and give it more of that kind of hand-drawn look, even though, let me see, make sure that it's not messy. Okay, it's not perfect, but oh well. There's that. And behind here, I think I might use some flowers. And I've got a few that I cut out from the paper collection. So I'll just group them there however it looks cute. I can add a little butterfly just floating there. And I'll show you guys, once I have this all adhered, I'll show you what it looks like. Just gonna add a few of these fussy cut flowers. I happen to put them in a little bowl here because I've had quite a bit of a mess here. Okay, here we go. I think I've got enough there. And maybe I'll add the little fence up here. Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna start gluing. And I'm gonna just add glue to this edge here, like so. Place my little flowers and just kind of pick them up with the edge of that paper. So that way I know I have them where I want them, just like that. Okay. And now I'm going to add the hot glue just to that one edge so that nobody's moving on me. And put that right back down. I can add my little butterfly up top and then add the little fence. Okay. I'm just going to add this down here. It's quite delicate. So if you see the result there, okay, all I did was mirror what I had on this side over here by using the dies that I have in my stash. Okay. Thank you, Rocky. And I hope I'm in frame here so that you guys can see. So now I can go to town with the little diamond dots. I can start adding texture and shine. I can use my jelly roll pen. That's something that I love to do. So, you know, say I didn't like the color on the edge there, I can just go back and add some shine on the perimeter of that little house and it's going to look fine. There's not going to be any issues with that. I am going to go ahead and add little dots here. So why don't I go ahead and do that? And if you guys have any questions, now would be a good time to ask. But for sure, what I'll try to do is, God willing, if tomorrow I'm feeling okay, then I can try to come back and do the next pages with you guys. And I'll try to aim for the same time, so that way I give myself some time in the morning to do any stretching that I have to do and all that good stuff. But well, thank you, Ines. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you're able to, and I appreciate you having been here. I'm gonna look for my little applicator here. But this is what I did before. I just went ahead and added texture with the little beads and that sort of thing. Try not to overthink stuff too much, you know? Just have fun with it. I'm curious to know how many of you make mini albums. Because I know that, for instance, Wandy had stopped by because she said she bought some of the dies, but she's not accustomed to making mini albums. Let me know in the comments. See, who else is still here? Sorry guys, I was looking back at the comments there. I missed quite a few, so I apologize if I missed something you guys told me. Oh, you collect them, Rocky? Don't worry. There's a lot of that in this, you know, in the crafty world, right? You're not alone in that, because there's quite a few people that I know whose videos I see here and there, and they like to share the product. And I've yet to see anything they've ever made with them. And I always check back, kind of just anticipating, like, oh gosh, what did she make? What did she make? And then I look back at the channel and I don't see a single project made. And I always wonder why. You know, there's people, for instance, I know there's people that that I follow that have way more product than I do when it comes to, you know, the similar interests, similar likes, but they don't make a single thing with them. It boggles my mind, but whatever. Oh, you're new? Okay. Well, at least, you know, you have an interest in learning. That makes a huge difference. I'm going to bring in, because I have blue on this side and a little tiny blue here, I'm trying to bring this in, so I'm going to use it on the fence. This is a good way to kind of stretch out the little dots here too. So I'm going to use them the way that I had done before. On this side I did the white, so on this side I'll just use the blue. And by the way, Rocky, I tease and everything, but please don't take me too seriously, okay? Because no one's born knowing how to do any of this stuff, as I've said before. We're all new at something. I just don't want my girl Wandy to be selling herself short, though, because she makes spectacular cards and TNs, you know? So we have to support each other. There's that. All right, I'm almost done with this. This is just therapeutic for me, I'm not gonna lie. But I think it adds that little pop of color. Super cute. And I'll probably continue, but I'm not going to keep you here all day because, like I said before, my goal was to end this video by 2 p.m. And of course, I'm just going to give that run through. We made this little tuck spot here. Oh, that's awesome. I love to hear that. We made this one. We added lace to the base page. Different little elements there. And then going back a little bit here, I showed these pages that just fold out. Quite simple. Just making sure I'm in frame here, so let me go this way. There we go. All right. And then the very first page of the book, which was this one also, with a page that opens out like that, and then this one up here. Off camera, I added the lace. Off camera, I added all of the detail to this tuck piece here. And then I did complete this with a bunch of little gems and glitter and the little diamond dots and that good stuff. So I will be back, God willing, tomorrow with another layout, okay? And I'm going to try to make it much more interactive than the one that I did today. This was quite simple, I think. But that way we can try to expand this book a little bit more. And as you can see here, let me show you from this perspective. We have quite a bit of room yet to fill. So I'm hoping that this is fun for you. God willing, you know, I'm going to aim for 1 p.m. at the latest, because I think that that's going to work for me. All right. Yes. Hi, Nanny. Thank you for being here. Yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think I'm with you 100% on that, because I know for sure you know, I started looking, just as I was thinking of that little house, you know, to make for here, I start adding in my head 1, 2, 3, you know, 4, the base is 5, 6, 7, how many collections? Yeah, so let's just say there's 9 collections used only on those pages. So Nanny, I know what you're talking about. And 10 collections if you count the hinges, which, you know, that's completely unnecessary because you can do that without a die. But that's how it goes. Yeah, that's how it happens, Rocky. You know? So let me give you a recap. We use the designer series birdhouse. Actually, it's not called a birdhouse. This makes a little house. It looks like this, okay? That's what it makes. Darling little house. So you know darn well I'm going to be cutting more layers and putting them on that little house here, okay? This is just the base. But now I'm going to froof it up, if you will, okay? I'm going to make sure that I use those layers that I have here and start adding little elements here and there. All right, I just have to go rest. But that's a set that's going to come in handy for this whole entire book. Then we did use, let me show you the rest, okay? Because I know these questions come up. We use this one for this element here. The name is, what's this called again? Sunray Venus layering die set. We used, for this page here, these 2 pages, this one here, the Life You Love, okay? For the little tabs that I used here, I did make use of this other set that I have. I'm sorry, I have them kind of just here and there, but that's the cover because I know, you know, Keepsake Bookmaker, this is how you would find it on the page. And by the way, my link tree has access to all of these items so long as they're not sold out. For this page here, we used to make this tuck-in spot as well as that little element there. This piece here, it's called Bijou Balustrade, I don't know how to say it, Gatefold Creator die set. That one there. And last but not least, we used for the base of the book, the Keepsake Bookmaker. We use the spine set that you can buy for that. And then for all of the other elements, we use the Memory Bookmaker set that comes, we use the larger one as well as the base pieces, okay? So that is that. That's the recap of all of the items we've used on what we've constructed so far. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section of this video. And as I always say, I hope that you can be inspired and be blessed. And I thank you so much for watching today. Thank you for having joined me. Ciao, ciao.